Yeah, let's do it.
Well, everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of the Storybox podcast. My friends, today I have an honestly amazing human being. I was hearing all the amazing work that this man has been doing in his local community and for the world, really at that, not only in the music space, but just helping out the homeless people, helping out communities, helping out people in prisons, you name it. His name is Lecrae. Now, for those of you that don't know this incredible human being, you're about to get to know more about him, but he is more than just a gospel singer or rapper, if you could say that. He's released his new book called I Am Restored. He has this huge idea around restoration. This idea is very, very important, and we're going to hear more about it very, very soon. I could go on and on and on, Lecrae, about all your incredible works, but welcome so much to the Storybox podcast today, my friend.
I appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity.
The pleasure is all mine, man. I'm really glad that you're here. Before we dive into everything that you're doing, your backstory, the whole bit, I normally start off all my interviews with one particular question, and I think you might like it. It is, what does success look like to you?
Oh man, success is, I say this, I say success is not what I do compared to what other people do. Success is what I do compared to what I was created to do. And so, what are you here for, and how well are you doing at that? That's what success is. And so I'm not supposed to be Kendrick Lamar. I'm not supposed to be Kirk Franklin. I'm supposed to be Lecrae. And how well am I doing at being Lecrae? And if I'm doing that well, then I'm successful.
Love that, man. When was the moment for you in your life that you realized this was success for you? Has it been this gradual thing over time, or was there a catalyst moment somewhere in your life?
Yeah, I think I have reached the pinnacle for myself when I was able to pay my bills by doing what I love to do. Everything that after that was just, icing, was a blessing, to win Grammy Awards and have #1 albums and platinum. All those things were just beyond the scope of my imagination. And so, I was honestly in a great place as soon as I was able to pay my rent with making music.
How did you get started in all this, man? Did you always want to be a singer or a rapper? Where was the beginning, the origin story, if you will?
Yeah, I think I started off as a kid loving music. I grew up in a musical household. My mom always played music around the clock, clean and cook, and music was playing. So I loved music. And then, of course, my grandmother was kind of the spiritual influence in my life. And so, a lot of gospel music going on there. And I just kind of combined the worlds, and was able to connect to both sides of that, of who I was. And as a kid, just wrapped around the neighborhood, around the community. And I think getting into school and people recognizing the talent helped me know, like, okay, I may have something here. So I just kept pursuing it, and it led to just different opportunities. And it was kind of like a groundswell over time, just making music for people, and then ended up selling out the trunk of my car until, here we are today.
Mate, what was the biggest lesson for you that I guess either came from your mother or your grandmother? You mentioned there that your grandmother was more the spiritual influence in your home. What was a lesson that I guess both of them taught you that sort of made an impact on your heart and mind?
Yeah, my mother, her big thing was education and just tenacity, just having a no quit attitude. So she wouldn't let me quit anything. It was kind of like, just, you're not going to quit. You're going to keep pushing. You're going to keep pushing, and you're going to persevere. So she gave me a sense of will and a desire to finish what I started. And my grandmother, she just really had just a heart of God, and just wanted to see people who were broken and hurting find healing and find help. And so she was always the person who was serving the homeless and helping those in need. And that's really the compassion and mercy is really what she showed.
Mm. So for you, man, have you always had this, I guess, sense of faith about you in God, or when was the moment that you sort of realized God was real in your life?
No, I think, I thought I did, I probably, because most people, you grow up in and around church, you kind of like, yeah, cool. I believe in this. But it didn't get real for me till I was 19. And at 19 years old, I went to I went to a conference in Atlanta, just a lot of college kids there. And I just heard stories. And I saw people who looked like me. And I thought, wait a minute, like these people can't love God because they look like me. They can't be serious about God. They dress like me. Their hair looks like mine. Like, this can't be right. But what I found out was that they did. They were sincere. And it helped me understand, well, if they're sincere, then I can be sincere. And I think, God met me there and was like, hey, if I love you and I'm willing to embrace you despite your circumstances, your past, the things that have happened to you in your life. There's a fresh start waiting for you right here. And that was the beginning of my journey with God.
How has God made himself real over the course of your life? Have you found it difficult, challenging, especially in this space that you are in, to be a believer, to be someone of faith? Have you found it difficult?
Oh man. I think obviously, you spend a lot of time doing all these great things for God, but you're not spending time with God. And so the ways that God has made it real for me is just pulling me to the side or stopping my plans and saying, it's not about your plans, it's about my plans. And just messing up my ideas of how things are supposed to happen. And when your hands are tied and you're frustrated, you realize like, oh, I've got to turn to you. It's kind of like him getting your attention. And every time he gets my attention, the path is always better than I imagined it being, and even when I destroy things, destroy relationships or destroy, different things going on in my life, he finds a way to restore them and bring healing to them.
Did you ever question your faith, especially when you were selling tracks out of the boot of your car?
Of course. Yeah, of course. I definitely, would have spells of doubt, spells of despair. There were times in my life when I doubted because I was just like, I needed logical, scientific answers. And there were times in my life when I doubted because it did, believing in God did not endorse my lifestyle. And I wanted to live life for me and not for God. And so I didn't want that accountability. I didn't want that conviction. So those are two different times in my life. I was never probably the person who, when the world's going bad, I'm just like, I'm done with God. I've had some moments like that, but mostly it's been, I don't want to be responsible for following my convictions because it's too much pressure and I don't feel like I can live up to it.
Do you have a life verse at all that you hold dear to your heart?
I think for many years it was Romans 1:16. I'm unashamed of the gospel. It's the power of God for salvation for everyone who believes. I think, as powerful as that verse is and as potent as it is, I think for me now, I really do look at the whole book of Jonah as like my life verse. It's just so many elements to it. I can't pick a single part about it, but just the fact that, he was in doubt, he was going astray, he was in despair, and then God still loved him, and God still embraced him, and God still used him despite himself. And I think, man, I just relate to that so much.
So specifically, Jonah, he ran away from God. Has that ever happened to you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I spent years running from God. And this is after knowing him and trusting him and dedicating my life to him. I spent years just saying, man, I don't want to have to deal with this. I don't know what's up and what's down. The church had disappointed me, and I was disgruntled and frustrated. And so I kind of threw my arms up and said, I'm done with this stuff. And and God tracked me down. His love and mercy pursued me.
He's done that to me in the past. More recently, man. It's an interesting thing, especially when God makes himself known to me and the interesting ways that he actually does it. Like we least expect it to happen, but it's like, if we are truly a child of God, then like a shepherd that goes after a lost sheep, he will guide them back. And that guiding process, it might not always be pain-free, if I can say, but it's the most meaningful and needful thing for everyone, I guess, that has walked away from God. I'm curious, Lecrae, speaking about your new book, I Am Restored. The title is quite fascinating. What do you mean by the fact that you are restored? In what context?
Yeah, I think restoration is an idea that, you had a purpose. You had a position, and for whatever reason, somehow you're not functioning or operating in that position. Maybe it's like a beautiful car, and it carried the family around perfectly. And maybe just after years of sitting in the garage, or it deteriorates, and you're like, well, this car's done. And restoration is when you take that car and you say, oh, you're not done. You just need some work, and you can get right back to the purpose that you had initially. That's what I experienced in my life. Is I thought I was sidelined. I thought I was done. I thought I was like, I don't know about this God thing. I've gone too far. It's just, there's no hope left. And God's like, no, I'm not done with you. I want to restore you and use you in ways that you didn't expect. And that's exactly what he's done and what he continues to do. So it's a process. It's not like it happens and it's done. All right, you're restored, done. It's no, I want to restore you every day. Every time you wake up, I want to continue doing the work of restoration.
For a young person right now, or even a middle-aged person that is struggling with this idea of coming back to God, they're fighting, they're wrestling, they're running away, and they need that little bit of extra push. What would you say to them?
Yeah, I would say you woke up this morning, and that's the evidence you need to know that God's not done with you. A lot of times we struggle with the idea of, well, is there a God? If there's no God, there's no purpose. You're just a bunch of atoms and cells with no meaning, no purpose. And if there's no purpose, then there's no reason for doing anything. There's no reason to eat, drink, nothing. But you do have purpose. You have worth. You have value. And I think we know that. And that's why we treat ourselves with purpose. That's why we try to protect ourselves from danger. And we're passionate about certain things. And so if you have purpose, it was given to you. And the person who has given you purpose wants to continue showing you how to flesh that out. And that's all the more reason to come back to God, to come back to his purposeful plan for you.
It's interesting that you say that, man, because I actually created a video about that very thing, that oftentimes for a lot of people, they get confused that their purpose is with what they are doing rather than who they are. And I actually made the illustration, we need to separate ourselves between the I am versus I do. And who you are right now is the most important thing. Every single day, I believe this, every single day I am being restored 100%. I am different to who I was yesterday compared to who I am today. And that is because God, he is the same yesterday, today, and forever. But for me, I know that who I was yesterday was a sinful human being that I need to come back to God every single day, ask for forgiveness, the whole bit. But that doesn't necessarily impact on who I am really as a human being, the one that God created for me to be, a light in this world. And that is exactly who you are, man. Like, you are a positive influence, a positive light through not just your music, but your works in the community. And I think God honors that. I think God respects it and he loves that, man. I think that's why he's blessing everything that you're putting your hand to. Like, everything that I was hearing before coming on this call with you, it's just honestly amazing to see how God is still working in the world, and he's doing it through you, man. So I just want to honor you and say thank you so much for all of that.
I'm grateful. Appreciate that.
Man, I'm curious, like, out of all the things that you've done so far in your life, what has been your greatest achievement and why?
I think being present with my wife and kids is definitely my greatest achievement. For a long time, I was concerned with chasing after everything I could, accomplish. And I got to do this and I got to do this. And, some things were noble, I got to take a flight to China to go serve people. Those are noble things. But China will get another missionary. The music industry will get another artist. My kids won't get another dad. It's my wife may get another husband. She's really pretty, but but all that to say is man, once I was present, I was able to be effective in their lives in ways that I never had been before. Once I was consistent and just sitting still and being there and listening to them, and talking to them and wrestling with them, I was able to make a difference and create bonds that'll last a lifetime and will continue to build the legacy. And so I would say that's my greatest achievement.
That's so good, man. I love how you said that your kids won't get another dad. That is powerful stuff. I'm curious, man, like your creative process currently with making songs, with new ideas, what does that look like for you?
Being connected to the people, spending time with real people, hearing real stories. Because if you're speaking out of a vacuum and you're not really speaking to the issues that people are wrestling with, you're just kind of talking in circles. You're not really speaking to the human condition. You're not speaking to what people really need to hear. And so when I'm around people, when I'm spending time with people, hurting people, broken people, everyday people, kids, whoever, I'll just get a picture of what they're dealing with. And I'm able to create and write songs that become a soundtrack to people's lives.
Why write this book now? Why specifically this time? Why the message? Why the stories in there? Why now?
I think it was important because I'd already climbed a mountaintop. And sometimes when you climb a mountaintop, you have to let people know, it wasn't me. You know what I mean? It wasn't, if King David is sitting on his throne, you're looking at him and saying, wow, man, you're the man. He could say, well, let me tell you a story about a man who, slept with another man's wife and had her husband killed. Let me tell you about that man. And it's like, whoa, that can't be your story, King David. You're King David. And he's like, no, it's my story, which doesn't show you how awesome I am. It shows you how merciful God is, And so I wanted to tell my story now because it paints a picture of not how awesome Lecrae is, but how awesome God is and how merciful and great he is.
During the process of your career, your life, writing the book, everything, what would you say has been the worst piece of advice you've ever received?
Worst piece of advice I've ever received. It's probably to just play the game, to manipulate people's emotions and play the game. There's a saying, especially like in songwriting, they say if they cry, they buy. So figure out a way to make listeners cry and be manipulative. And I just think that's terrible, as some of the worst advice, because what that does is that erodes away your own sense of integrity and your own conscience. And it makes you, a manipulator, for lack of a better term. And that's probably the worst advice I've ever got.
Mate. I've got quite a few more questions, but I do want to be respectful of your time. Where can people, for example, buy your book currently? Where can they connect with you, learn more about you, and get to know the real Lecrae? Find the book, anywhere books are sold, definitely Amazon, of course. You go to Lecrae.com, Lecrae, and you can find a picture of who I really am. Which song for you that you've performed or you've written has the most meaning for you?
It changes, it ebbs and flows. And so there's always different songs for different seasons of my life. I think there's always a song for a season that are really important in those seasons. I think the first was Take Me As I Am, and it was Praying For You. I think more recently it's Nothing Left to Hide off Restoration. And so there's always a song for that season that I'm experiencing. Yeah.
My final question is my all-time favorite question. It's a hypothetical one, Lecrae. So I want you to use your imagination with me for a moment. But
All right.
imagine with me that you've been able to reach the age of 100. All your friends have decided to put together a film for you of everything you've ever said and everything you've ever done. Don't ask me how in the world they got it all. We'll call it magic for the sake of an argument. And they've decided to put together this film and show it to you on your 100th birthday. What do you want that film to say and to show about your life?
Oh man, that I was selfless, that I really poured myself out for the benefit of other people. Because at the end of the day, you know, if my ceiling is not someone else's floor, then it was all for me, and it all dies with me. And so I want to be able to make sure other people can benefit from my contributions.
I love it. I feel like that is a great way to sort of end our conversation. Lecrae, thank you so much for everything that you're doing, man, in the community, in the world, basically. You've touched my heart all the way here in Sydney, Australia. You touched a lot of my listeners' hearts as well. So thank you so much for coming on the Storybox podcast today and sharing your story.
Of course. Thank you. Appreciate you.